What's going on? What's going on, Zionist Nation? So we're gonna finish the song here. We'll just restart it. Actually, we'll just restart it. Back it up to 0.5 and don't ask. Yeah. Well, you can see more. Yeah, Laura. Lord, hear my prayer. Oh, Lord. Oh, we were going to read more about Janice, weren't we? We're going to finish that article? We're going to finish that article. The hippie rock stars of the late 60s merged two versions of that hardy American myth, the free individual. They were stars, which meant achieving liberation by becoming rich and famous on their own terms. And they were, or purported to be, apostles of cultural revolution. A considerably more ambitious, I don't know why I said ambition instead of ambitious. Jeremy said, how can you kill me with ambition instead of ambitious? A considerably more ambitious and romantic vision of freedom that nevertheless had a similar economic foundation. Young Americans were in a sense the stars of the world, drawn on an overblown prosperity that could afford to indulge all manner, God bless us because we defeated Germany and don't ask, all manner of rebellious and experimental behavior. The combination was inherently unstable. Whitman's open road is not finally the Hollywood freeway, and in any case, neither stardom nor prosperity, it's really that holy to talk about things like this, could deliver what it seemed to promise. Just shut the fuck up, New York Times. You're fucking fine. Don't ask. For a fragile historical moment, rock transcended these contradictions. In its aftermath, our pop heroes found themselves grappling, like the rest of us, with what are probably enduring changes in white American consciousness. Changes that have to do with something very like... I remember one time my dad was reading because I was talking about the Watchmen review of Peter Travers. This is the reason I remembered it. Hold on, I'm going to look up something else real quick here. Famous San Francisco restaurant reviewer. Anyway, they want to hear that. No. Was he Los Angeles? He was Los Angeles. Everyone came. Jonathan Gold, yeah. Those are the two guys I was thinking of. I'll write their names down. Jonathan Gold and Peter Travers, yeah. Jonathan Gold, Peter Travers. Jonathan... Yeah, because my dad said when he was reading the review of Watchmen from Peter Travers, he said, you could learn to write like that. Yeah. It was because he said something about yards and yards of blue penis or something. I've told that story before because it was a funny thing that my dad was that impressed by that imagery. That's what it's called, right? Imagery. Jonathan Gold and Peter Travers, I wrote their names down so I wouldn't forget them again. Anyway... Like the rest of us, with what are probably enduring changes, Rolling Stone got angry now at New York Times because the New York Times was making such a big deal about reading another magazine. They said, is he allowed to do that, Lord? Like the rest of us, they said, do we have good movie reviewers? Yeah, of course you do. Do you remember their names? Not off the top of my head. Like the rest of us, with what are probably enduring changes in the white... Miriam got mad I took the rosary off my hand. Can you guys all shut the fuck up so I can finish reading? With what are probably enduring changes in the white American consciousness, changes that have to do with something very like an awareness of tragedy. Anyway, I was all that to say this is very good. This is a very good review, yeah. I'm glad that Jonathan Gold was in Los Angeles and not San Francisco for some reason, yeah. We did talk about the San Francisco soup, that soup with the... Yeah, I don't remember what that soup was. Should we look that up? I'm starting to get a little frustrated. We'll look that up in the next video. We're going to finish this first. San Francisco. I'll write that down in my notes too, though. So touching that you have David Hazout up there. Francisco. Okay, we'll look that up in the next video. Yeah, because Jonathan Gold is a good writer too. Yeah. Anyway, I was saying this article about Janis Joplin is really well written. Yeah. It has a specific Rolling Stone style. It's really, really good. Rolling Stone has really good writing, and don't ask. I started reading Pitchfork reviews instead of Rolling Stone at some point. Not really. They came now. They came joy beyond my wildest understanding that I said that. Changes that have to do with something very like an awareness of tragedy. It is in this context that Janis Joplin developed as an artist, a celebrity, a rebel, a woman, and it is in this context that she died. 100 greatest singers of all time, Janis Joplin. Right? Joplin belonged. It's real. They're not. They say opera singers are classically trained. They're better singers. No, they're really not better than rock and roll singers. And don't ask. Not really. Janis belonged to that select group of pop figures who mattered as much. They're drooling now for themselves as better. Really, they're not better than. No, they're better than opera singers. Nicholas said, no, they're not. He said, actually, I know they are, and don't ask. Janis belonged to that select group of pop figures who mattered as much for themselves as for their music. Among American rock performers, she was second only to Bob Dylan in importance as a creator, recorder, embodiment of her generation's history and mythology. She was also the only woman to achieve that kind of, it's real, they know about rock and roll just like the Catholic Church knows about things like that. Embodiment, are they really that important? They really are, and don't ask. Lord said Rolling Stone really is that important, and don't ask. To rock and roll, and don't ask. Rock and roll really is that important, and don't ask. She was also the only woman to achieve that kind of stature in what was basically a male club. The only 60s culture hero to make visible in public woman's experience of the quest she was all, oh my God. The only 60s culture hero to make visible and public woman's experience of the quest for individual liberation, which was very different from men's. If Janis's favorite metaphors, singing as fucking, a first principle of rock and roll, and fucking as liberation, a first principle of the cultural revolution, were equally approved by her male peers, the congruence was only on the surface. Underneath, just barely, lurked a feminist or pre-feminist paradox. The male-dominated, it's so good to learn about these things, isn't it? Yeah, I'm teaching Lyra, my cat, about feminist and pre-feminism. Feminism and pre-feminism. Do I know about those things? A little bit. It's good to say a little bit. You do, all the way, Josh. The male-dominated counterculture defined freedom. Counterculture. Steve Martin wanted me to say his name in the context of counterculture. What's up, Steve Martin? The male-dominated counterculture defined freedom for women almost exclusively. He said, how come I never added him to a tribe of Israel? He did say that right in the middle of when I'm reading an article about Janis Joplin. I don't know, man. I'll write you down in the notes, too. Steve Martin, tribe. He said, I know I'm important enough to you for you to take time to do that. After I finish this article. The male-dominated counterculture defined freedom for women almost exclusively in sexual terms. He came joy beyond my wildest understanding that I said I would do it at any point. As a result, women endowed the idea of sexual liberation with immense symbolic importance. It became charged with all the secret energy. Hold on, we have to put the new video on here. How could I forget? Let's see here. They're angry that I'm making a video. They said no more videos while you're doing it if you're going to not put it on there right away. Liturgy with Zipporah. Shane said, take your time, man. We have all day and don't ask. Everyone saw Gwen and Miriam are getting angry and don't ask. Are getting angry and don't ask. It's not funny to say it like that. Like you're working for the Rolling Stone and don't ask. Everyone fucking came because you've been doing that your whole life. Just since I started realizing that I'm important to Rolling Stone, I realized I'm a fucking rock and roller and don't ask. I'm a fucking real rock star and don't ask. And they fucking came now, Josh, in tears beyond your wildest understanding. The male-dominated counterculture defined freedom for women almost exclusively in sexual terms. As a result, women endowed the idea of sexual liberation with immense symbolic importance. It became charged with all the secret energy of an as-yet suppressed larger rebellion. Yet to express one's rebellion in that limited way was a painfully literal form of submission. Whether or not Janis understood that, it's so important to read this to women. Her dual personality persona, lusty, hedonist, and suffering victim, suggested that she felt it. Dope, another term in her metaphorical equation. I'm going to put the rosary back on, Miriam. Getting high, as singing, as fucking, as liberation, was, in its more sinister aspect, a painkiller, and finally a killer. Which is not to say that good times weren't real as far as they went. They packed so many features into this iPhone 13 Pro Max, I can't believe it. You can back up to 0.5. So fucking cool, and don't ask. Just a really good feature they added. Whatever the limitations of hippie rock star life, it was better than being a provincial matron or a lonely weirdo. For Janice, let's see how much is left. It's a long article, and don't ask. It's a really long goddamn article. We're going to finish it though. For Janice, as for others of us who suffered the worst fate, As for others of us who suffered the worst fate that can befall an adolescent girl in America, unpopularity, a crucial aspect of the Cultural Revolution was its assault on the rigid sexual styles of the 50s. Joplin's metamorphosis from the ugly duckling of Port Arthur to the peacock of Haight-Ashbury meant, among other things, that a woman who was not conventionally pretty, who had acne and an intermittent weight problem and hair that stuck out, could not only invent her own beauty. Kirsten's mom loves Janis. One time, she asked me who my favorite music artist was, and I said Janis Joplin. She said, "Oh, what's an album by her?" And I couldn't think of anything, so she said, "I guess you're just a fucking liar, don't ask." Just as she invented her wonderful sleazo freak costumes. I only said Janis Joplin because I knew somebody had told me that she loved Janis Joplin, and I was being that obvious. She knew I was being that obvious, and don't ask. Out of sheer energy, soul, sweetness, arrogance, and a sense of humor, out of that beauty appreciated. I saw an album of her when I was at Meyer one time with my dad. I think it was Meyer. I was like, wow, that is one ugly girl, and don't ask. Not that Janis merely took advantage of changes, and I don't think that anymore, no. I never did, to be honest with you. Not that Janis merely took advantage of changes in our notions of attractiveness. She herself changed them. I guess I'm going to have to marry Janis now. It was seeing Janis Joplin that made me resolve, once and for all, not to get my hair straightened. And there was a direct line from that sort of response to those apocryphal burned bras and all that followed. Direct but not simple. Janis once crowed, "They're paying me $50,000 a year to be like me." That was a lot at the time. But the truth was that they were paying her to be a personality, and the relation of public personality to private self, something every popular artist has to work out, is especially problematic for a woman. Men are used to playing roles and projecting images in order to compete and succeed. Male celebrities tend to identify with their mask making, to see it as creative and, more or less, to control it. In contrast, women need images. New York Times is coming grief beyond my wildest understanding that Rolling Stone did such a good job writing this article. They said they thought they had a monopoly on all the really good writers. In contrast, women need images simply to survive. A woman is usually aware on some level that men do not allow her to be her real self, and worse, that the acceptable masks represent men's fantasies, not her own. She can choose the more interesting image available, present it dramatically, individualize it with small elaborations, undercut it with irony, but ultimately she must serve some male fantasy to be loved, and then it will only be the fantasy that is loved anyway. The female celebrity is confronted with this dilemma in its starkest form. Joplin's revolt against conventional femininity. How can you be a feminist if you can't pronounce femininity? I don't know. I guess I'm not then. Yes, you are, Josh. You're the biggest feminist of all time. Now stop talking. Joplin's revolt against conventional femininity was brave and imaginative, but it also dovetailed with a stereotype. The ballsy, one of the guy's chick, who was a needy, vulnerable cream puff underneath, cherished by her legions of hit male fans. It may be that she could have pushed beyond it and taken the audience with her. That was one of the possibilities that made her death an artistic as well as human calamity. There is, for instance, the question of her bisexuality. People who knew Janis differ on whether sexual relationships with women were an important part of her life, and I don't know the facts. In any case, you like that? And I don't know the facts. I like that fucking voice I used. In any case, yes we do, Josh. In any case, a public acknowledgement of bisexual proclivities would not necessarily have contradicted her image. It could easily have been passed off as more pull out the stops hedonism or another manifestation of her all-encompassing need for love. On the other hand, she could have used it just don't read it again. She could have used it to say something new about women and liberation. All right, we got to stop right here and post it to YouTube. We'll finish it.